Hello, this is Jer, and this is my third episode of this playthrough, and primarily working on the carnivore achievement. So I've set up this system over here. That's the incubator, and you can see I've got a dupe named Hugger, and they're attending to the eggs. And while they're doing that, I'm trying to advance my base in other ways because it's just one dupe that I have attending to the eggs. The other dupes are available to do other things. And one of the main things for the achievement is to get them to consume meat. But it would be silly of me not to have them build other things. So right here you can see me bringing in more automation. This is the automation that's automatically picking up eggs and dumping them next to the incubation system. I'm going to need some more metal for that. Also thinking about digging, and I know there's a cold polluted water geyser in here, so I'm going to dig that out in a little bit. But I see there is some bleach stone, so I want to have a bin in water or other liquid that I can put bleach stone in so it doesn't leak out as chlorine gas. Alright, so just going to research masks because that's one of the things I'm going to want. And my dupes be able to go out on the top of the base, but when they go into space they won't be able to breathe, so I'll give them some masks to be able to do that. Alright, just finishing up the automation there. Now I'm going to mark this to be stored bleach stone. So anytime my dupes dig out some bleach stone, it's going to go in there, and I know it's not going to leak out. And I'm just going to find some critters for meat. So I'll attack those few critters, wrangle a few in the pips, because I actually don't have all my pip station. Whoops, that's upside down. Not that it really matters, but might as well keep it the same direction as everything else. So the goal here is to have 3 pips in each of these rooms, because that's the maximum that it can take. 4 by 9 is the size of those rooms. While some of my dupes drop off some pips in there, I'm going to have my dupes dig out an area at the top. Looks like that's not the cold polluted water. That's polluted oxygen. I don't really care for that particular one. There's another geyser right next to it. We'll see what that is here in a second. So we're just going to add power. So that's the conveyor loaders. That's the one that's actually going to take in the eggs and send them to that conveyor path or conveyor rail to go down to the incubator. All right, so digging down here, and they're having trouble breathing. Yeah, there it is. It is the cool geyser. That's awesome. Okay, so I'm going to dig out a spot next to it, and it's even active. That is amazing because I've been unlucky in the last playthroughs. Anytime I dig out one of those geysers, it tends to not be active. While I do that, the dupes over here, or actually it's just a single dupe that's here, if they're available, I'll get them to dig out that because they may uncover some more hatches, which would speed up this meat process. So far, not getting a ton of meat, a decent amount, but not consistently every single day. So I'd like to pump that up a little bit if I can. There comes a Sweetle egg. Sweetle eggs are coming from the other base. I've got a single dupe over there. They've got critter ranching skills, and they're attending to a couple hatches and about 16 or so Sweetles. So I should be getting a fair amount of those. And then, let's see, I'm just going to go through the process of hugging every single egg that I possibly can, or at least the ones that don't have the lullaby effect. Okay, over here, this is where polluted water is going, so I'll dig that area out so I can get more polluted water, because the moment that geyser becomes or fills up, it'll become overpressured and won't release more, and I have plans for some polluted water. I can turn it to oxygen. I can use it for cooling because actually it's minus 10 degrees. But not that I need that anytime soon because I've got negative 150 degrees on the bottom left of my base right now, which I was not expecting to have. Okay, so we're just watching Hugger go through this whole process. And I do this just about every single day. They're on break now, so the door automatically have that set to open. So that's going to let them out. Just going to wrangle up 2 more Sweetles because I've got the space for them over there. And just looking at what skills I want to give. So I'm going to bring over Miner. They have the ability to do digging because I suspect that this is going to speed up the digging that I want to have happen down there. and hopefully that's going to reveal some hatches. So some sweeties are going to attack them. That's going to produce meat, and that'll be brought to the electric grill, turn that to barbecue meat. And I'm going to click on all the eggs that need to have the lullaby effect, and Hugger is going to go through this and apply the lullaby effect to every single egg. It's quite annoying that I have to do this every day. I wish the lullaby effect lasted more than just 24 hours or one cycle, I should say. Or the other thing that would be nice if the conveyor loader had the ability to automatically detect the difference between eggs that have the lullaby effect and eggs that don't, or some other mechanism. Anyway, some hatches that become were discovered over in that world, so that's nice. That may increase the amount of hatches that I get going forward here. So the reason I want this is, watch what I'm doing. I'm cycling through every single egg, looking for the ones that don't have the lullaby effect, getting them to be swept. And the conveyor loader, it does have the ability to determine items that are marked as swept and those that aren't. Otherwise, this wouldn't be possible, at least not this nicely. But it would be a much nicer deal if there was either like setting the conveyor loader or some other mechanism that allowed me to filter out eggs that have that lullaby effect or not. That would be just too good. I'm not overly concerned about that, though. As good as that would be, that'd only be a short-term thing, because I do plan to transition to other types of food once I get this achievement. Until I get this achievement, I want as much meat eaten. Okay, so again, switching all the eggs, or looking for rather all the eggs that have don't have the lullaby effect, that is, and getting those to be dropped down in this room. I also noticed that it looks like scientists. Oh, I was going to say they're idle. Maybe they were just walking by as I had it paused. So one of the disadvantages, or just the difficulty of doing this, having a single incubator and not running all the time, amazing, and having the ability to have eggs drop down, even though I have to manually select it, is great. But the most annoying thing isn't that. The most annoying thing is the fact that I've got to spend all my time focused here, because I've got to remove the egg manually when they're done with it. Otherwise, this is going to waste power. But I then have to do all the other things. Make sure my dupes aren't idle, and make sure that they have other things to do, so that while Hugger is busy and I'm in this room with them every single cycle, it seems, that my other dupes go and advance the base. Because I don't want to just have Hugger do all the work. The rest of the dupes, if they've got idle time, well, let's have them actually advance the base in some way. So what do I plan to do while I work on this achievement? Let's just, I'm going to research actual material research, because what that's going to unlock is the ability to make glass. And with glass, if I do the right research, that's going to also require the material research, I can build solar panels. And that's particularly important, because I'm also going for the super sustainable achievement, which only allows me at this moment to generate power via the manual generator plus the hydrogen. I'm only getting a little bit from the hydrogen electrolyzer. But I'm very conservative right now with how I'm spending power. I've got a carbon dioxide system at the bottom of the base. I've got a hydrogen system on top of the base, which is actually kind of producing power, because even though I'm getting rid of the hydrogen, I'm actually burning it. So that's pretty good. I've got a lot of automation, but those automation systems don't run. Let's make a choice here. Pacus, why not? A lot of those automation systems don't run that often, so they don't actually consume that much power if you look at it throughout the whole cycle, because these critters, they don't lay eggs that often. So that not a lot of power is being consumed at this point. That's going to change with the rad bolt generator. That consumes about 500 kilowatts of power. Not only that, but it's consistent. There's another hatch. That's awesome. That's going to give us more meat. So it looked like bringing over miner over here paid off. So yeah, that is going to be a pain for a while, but it's short-lived. That's why the focus, in my mind, has got to be around making sure you go after solar panels, particularly since I'm going after the super sustainable. Now, if you weren't going after the super sustainable, my goal and what I've done in the past in this particular world is collect all the coal in this world. And actually, because I've got hatches, they're also producing coal. I forget about that too. I'm getting a lot of coal out of the system, but that's one of the things that you can't burn if you want the super sustainable achievement. At least you have to produce a lot of power until you're able to do that. And probably by that point, you don't need coal anyways. So it's just going to be a rough ride for a little bit while I do the research. And my goal is to give a lot of radiation around the Red Bull generator so that it doesn't have to operate for I don't have to go through as many cycles of this painful process of having a lot of dupes on the manual generators, because not a lot of work is going to happen if all they do is run. So what I'm doing here is I'm just bringing power over between my rooms, and I've made it such that the hatches are able to jump, because they can jump over 2 tiles. They can't jump over 3, so now I've blocked them. But now what I have, I tended to have all my stone hatches on the left, because they're going to be consuming aluminum ore. The reason that they're consuming that is because that increases their chances of laying smooth hatch eggs. And the smooth hatch eggs are, well, that produces the smooth hatches, and they will consume metal ore. And actually output 75% of that is actually metal, refined metal. But that's not really my focus. I've got a refinery for that in an extremely cold zone underneath it. But I am also wanting to go for the Down the Hatch achievement, which requires, what I believe, 10 tons of refined metal produced by those hatches. Is it produced or consumed? Anyways, either way, I'll just get that. But that's also going to give me some meat. But I'm going to aim to stop feeding them some metal more. I'm actually pretty short on metal ore, so I'm going to start digging out some spots here. But I've got a lot of it in the world. That's because I chose a world that is metal rich. That's why you see a ton of ore. Okay, so the other optimization thing that I want to work on is upgrading the washroom. So right now it's actually a latrine, not a washroom. But if I upgrade everything to have a sink and the lavatory, then that'll actually create a washroom, upping the morale when dupes go in there. But the main thing is there's no manual work with that, assuming that I'm able to handle the polluted water that goes out of it. So what I'm going to do, and I don't normally do this, but I'm actually relocating the latrine, or temporary latrine, to the bottom there. That's so that when I'm destroying these, as I am now, that my dupes don't make a mess everywhere. So they've got an alternate place to go. I'm going to bring in showers too. I was debating whether to do 3 or 4. I decided to go with 4 each. That's going to allow me, if I choose, to have 4 dupes on the same schedule. That way, if they have 4 dupes that all take a break at the same time, then they don't have to fight over who gets to go to the washroom first, type of thing, or the shower as well. So I'm going to have an input and output line. I'm just going to connect the full thing. So I'm going to connect this water. I'm getting water from the other world because there's a lot of it. It's not a renewable source, but it's going to take a long time before that goes out. I'm also going to have a place just to store some of the polluted water. And I'm not going to process that at the moment, but I will in the future. Right now, I'm probably just going to build some liquid reservoirs and store some polluted water in that. And hope those don't get filled up by the time that I go after a solution for dealing with the polluted water. It's not so much the polluted water, but it's the food poisoning inside that. But we'll see that probably not in this episode, but later on. So I'm deciding to wrangle the pips because not all the stables for those are full. The Sweetles, anytime I have those come from the other world. They're pretty much immediately converted to meat. And the stone hatches, they're starting to be filled. They're going to be filling up the room on the left, the stable on the left. And hopefully one of them or several of them will lay some smooth hatch eggs that can create another stable. So I'm going to ultimately have 3 stables for the hatches. And the third one will be for the smooth hatches. But I've got about, I'm pretty sure 8 now hatches. So anytime I have hatches, I could choose to have those convert to meat, actually. I think that wouldn't be a bad thing. And of course, Hugger every single day is going after this adding lullaby effect to the eggs. So that's where I'm going to store the polluted water. That's going to be the output. I'll put this, map that all through. And I'm going to have to watch that because once that gets filled up, that's going to back up everything. The showers, the washroom, or the sinks and the lavatories, and make them unusable. But I'll do my best to watch that and make sure that doesn't get filled up before I come up with another solution. So yeah, now I'm able to attack hatches, which is good because they actually give me twice the amount of meat that I get from the pips or the Sweetles. 3,200 calories, and if you convert that through the barbecue, that's 4,000 calories of barbecue meat, enough for 4 dupes. Okay, so more hugging is going on, and I've got to be honest, this is the most annoying part of this whole phase because it's manual work for me. I don't really care that it takes 1 dupe to do this. If they could do that themselves, I would be delighted. It's the fact that I have to be in this room in order to turn off or remove the eggs and then enable another egg. And then, of course, this whole process of finding all the eggs. So I'm quite motivated once I've got the carnivore achievement to find another solution for food. So I'm going to put in the flooring down there. This is just going to allow the dupes to run faster when they're there. And they're running out of some tasks. So I'm going to have to come up with some things for them to do. But anyway, that's going to allow them to walk around the washroom and that when they're on break. Okay, over here, just checking to see if any hatches were discovered. I see some more Sweetles, but I've got enough Sweetles for the moment. I do need some Wheezy warts. I'd like to have 3, actually. And I'm going to transport them over to this world because that's going to help with radiation. Wheezy warts produce radiation. Now I can actually plant them in a wild format via the pips. So anything the pips pick up and they put into the ground is going to be wild plant, which means my dupes don't have to attend to it. It's not going to require any material or anything on my part. They'll just simply exist. So I have to dig over that door, get someone to do a biometric scan. Now I can destroy it. And that's where I'm going to do my material research. Just realized that this room here doesn't have an herb tree. So I'm going to put a seed for that in the bin. And when pips go in there, they'll eventually put it in there. I also have to make sure I've got I take out all the other seeds so they don't pick up something other than an arbitrary acorn and put it in the ground. I specifically designed those rooms to only have 1 dirt tile, or not necessarily dirt, but have 1 tile available for the pips. The rest of it, it'll just be regular tiles. Okay, so here I'm specifying the Wheezy warts to be dropped off there, and I've dug out 3 of them. So my dupes will drop them off. That will arrive in this world over here. And then I'm going to dig an area out over the left with some wild tiles, some just regular tiles. That's ones, such as dirt, or even iron ore will work, granite, anything that doesn't have a very hard surface. If you click on it, I think the only thing is abyssalite, for instance, wouldn't work. Probably not the uranium ore. But yeah, so based on the firmness condition of the tile, determines whether a pip can put something in it. Any tile you create or the dupes create will be not available for a pip to be able to put a seed into the ground. The other thing I'm going to have to watch out for is, do I have any wild plants around? Because pips have this weird characteristic where they can't put something into the ground where there's other plants around, even if they can't see them. They're in a level down or below or something. I think the maximum is 3 plants, and it's like 5 tiles to the right and 6 to the left. And anyways, it's basic. If you're trying to get a pip to put something in the ground, just dig out as many wild plants that you don't care about around it, and hope the pip is able to get it in there. So just notice that I've got a lot of polluted oxygen, and I meant to deal with this a while back because I already had the research for a deodorizer. I just kind of neglected the fact that my dupes are around there, and that can be annoying because what happens when your dupes get into contact with polluted water, or polluted oxygen rather, they get something called yucky lungs, and it requires them to start breathing more, which is annoying because I'm producing oxygen, and it just requires me to have more oxygen for the same number of dupes. I'm going to put one in there, and hopefully that'll be enough so that my dupes won't be exposed to that so much. It might be alright because I see a lot of the polluted oxygen is in the higher up area, and the dupes are walking around in the lower area, but it doesn't take much for that polluted oxygen just to fall down a little bit and come into contact with my dupes. So I decided that putting it inside that room is not a great idea. So I'm just going to have it built over on the left. And so that room over there, I'm going to temporarily allowing everyone to go into it, but I have it programmed and set up at the doors so that only Hugger is allowed to go in there. And I might have mentioned this in the previous episode, but the reason that I had it set up that way is so if I specify an egg to be processed, that another dupe isn't going to take an egg that's in the room above that has the lullaby effect and drop it in there, which is not effective, because egg that has the lullaby effect will just sit in there, waste power, and Hugger won't be able to attend to it because it already has that lullaby effect. What'll happen is that egg will stay there, and eventually the lullaby effect will wears out after a cycle, and then Hugger would go down. But that would require power for that machine for the entire time, which I don't know if that's the design they came up with. I think it was. I think that is the idea, that if you want this thing to run, they intend to have a ridiculous amount of power wasted. In my mind, that consumes more power. It should possibly have 2 power modes like some other buildings have. So what I'm thinking, maybe whilst the Critter Rancher is giving it a hug or whatever it is they're doing, maybe it goes up to the 500 or close to that power. But when it goes in an idle state, maybe if the power went down to maybe a 1/10 or just something much smaller, I wouldn't bother with this strategy, and I would just say, okay, you know what, my goal in that case is just to produce a lot more refined metal, because I would need more. That you need refined metal for those things, and I would just build an array of them, and have them just exist and run all the time, and just allow Hugger to go in once a day whenever it's needed. Now, the other strategy that I've tried in the past, and it's all right, is hooking up automation next to the incubators. And that what you're effectively wanting to do is have a small period of time that each one is operating, such that an egg can go in there. It can operate for, let's say, maybe 2 or 5% of the day or whatever, and hope that that time period that egg has doesn't have the lullaby effect, and B, hope that someone with a critter rancher is in that area already to automatically attend to it. The reason I went away from that is because, as I mentioned, it requires a lot of extra refined metal and space to be able to do that. And since I can do everything with a single one, and I don't have some of those complexities, such as making or having to wait to see if I'm lucky that one of the actual ranchers goes in there and they've got the right effect they lost their effect at the right time. That would actually, one of the things that might be neat is if I had the ability to build a sensor that says, okay, is there any eggs here that don't have the lullaby effect, yes or no? And then if I had that, then I would send automation to the incubator to say, okay, you know what, I'm detecting that there is, and I would have to assume that I would have to design it, I guess, such that each room would, or whatever the sensor picked up, only could see that one egg. But maybe if that were the case, I would then hook up automation to the incubator and say, okay, turn on when it's needed. And then maybe it's wasting power, but if I set it a high priority, I would just hope that one of my critter ranchers gets to it, and then it'll turn back off when it detects the fact that it's not needed. Maybe that would be an alright option as well. I kind of prefer the idea that the power just goes down when it's in the idle state. But anyways, maybe I'm just annoyed at how much manual work it takes to operate this thing. Yeah, this is the worst achievement to get, in my opinion. Maybe the mining one is worse, but even that one doesn't take the manual work that this does. It'll be done soon enough. Either two things are going to happen when you're trying to do this. You're either going to get to cycle 100 and you don't get it, or at some point you get the 400,000 calories of meat. In my playthrough, if I don't get it, that means I'm going to be starting over again. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think I'm in a pretty decent state with it. I feel like I could be doing better than I should, so I don't know what's missing. Every day I've got about 8,000 calories of meat, so we're doing good. And I can see that I almost have all my pip stables full, and when that happens, then any pips will be available for meat as well. So up there, I'm having my dupes. I'm making sure that I don't have anything in bins for those. Oh, what are those blue things called? the blue seeds. I'm having those Wheezy words. That's what it is. I'm trying to think of. I'm having those sent up there. There's 3 of them that I've then delivered. And now I have to have pips go up in that area and get them to plant something. And when you plant wild stuff with pips, if you want to pack them side by side, you can do that up to 3. Then you will need to go from left to right. So what I've done is actually build a bin on one of the spots I want to build. I've built a ladder on the middle one, and the one on the right that you can see there is available. That's where I want the pip to build first, or plant a seed first. And then once they have that, then I'll destroy the ladder, and then I'll destroy the bin, and then I'll have 3 Wheezy warts available, producing a lot of radiation. And that's not enough. Well, it would allow me to operate the Red Bull generator, but it would be even more efficient if I built a radiation lamp, which I'm going to do. So those 2 things I'm going to put in combination. Okay, so just trying to remember what the logic for this is going to be, because I have a Red Bull reflector that's pointing backwards. That's on purpose. that is the last rad bolt that goes into the this research station, and I'm going to have a automation input to that, and basically say if the research machine is in need of radiation or red bolts, then you can then turn yourself off, meaning that red bolts will pass through and go into the machine. I also am going to put logic such that if any dupes are in the area, then make sure that you're operating. So that gate's an OR gate. Okay, of course, this is what's so annoying. I would prefer to be up right now looking at my dupes build that system, but I've got to be with this guy here. They're attending to all the pip eggs. All those pip eggs are probably going to be converted to meat, so I think we're, from this point on, I let the pips escape there. So they've run wild all around. I'll have to wrangle them, dig out those seeds, bring them back again, and go again. This is because of this incubator. That's why. I wouldn't have, I'm sure that wouldn't have, well, maybe it would have anyway, but it would have been more of a chance that I would have done that correctly if I could have been watching this whole time instead of been in this room with Hugger going after every single egg to get the lullaby effect. Okay. Alright. There is going to be a point where I am still possibly going after the carnivore achievement or not, but there's going to be a point where I'm still getting or my dupes to eat meat. But what I'm doing, I just realized I've got some wild plants I've got to take out in order for them to put that in. But what I'm going to do, or what's just going to happen naturally rather, is I'll have so many critters and critter eggs that I won't need to run the incubator anymore. And that will be such a nice thing. Because I won't have to filter manually through all the eggs, and I won't have to spend every single day with Hugger. So that's nice. The only reason that I'm even building an incubator is because the carnivore achievement. If I wanted to have my dupes eat meat, and it's not a bad thing, in particular barbecue, because it's a high morale food. It's not the highest, but it's pretty decent. That setup would be done without the incubator. What I would do, I would still have the hatches, I would still have the pips, but I would just have a bunch of eggs sit in a room and just wait it out. It's going to take a lot longer for them to hatch, but I would have an alternate food source. Of course, the locavore achievement would probably get into the way, because not only do I need them to eat meat, but I also can't produce things in planter boxes until at least the carnivore or the locavore achievement is done. And that requires 400,000 calories. There's no time period associated with that. You just simply can't plant anything in planter boxes. So all those things, combination, that and the super sustainable, make for annoying time. But I'm going to get through it. And once I do, so I'm actually just about to get my pips to put in the third Wheezy War. But yeah, so I'm just having here power line or heavy watt wires brought over. I'm going to be very careful about how I do that, because I want to switch to be able to turn it on and off, because I don't want to run the red bolt generator when it's not needed, because that takes a lot of power. And I think it's the same amount, if I'm not mistaken, as the incubator. But the incubator doesn't have to run all day. The rad bolt generator does. And the reason it does is because when it turns off, any rad bolts that have accumulated inside of it deteriorate really quickly. So you could be running it all day and it could start to fill itself up, maybe 90%, and then you could have a power outage for a couple percentage of the day, or a small period, let's say, and it just wipes it all out. So there's no point in running this thing unless you plan on having continual power. So I'm probably going to have to tweak the manual generators, because my only other source of power is the hydrogen, and I don't want to accumulate too much, or I don't have enough hydrogen really to make anything significant out of the amount of power that I would need. The only good news is, as I mentioned, I only have to operate this for a certain amount of time because eventually I'll be able to have solar panels once the research is done, and I'll turn off the rad bolt generators. That's going to be a very important step, and one that I'm sure that even if I forget, I'll quickly realize when all my dupes are on the manual generators when I'm trying to get them to do other things that I've forgotten to turn that off. So I suspect that won't be something that I forget, or if I do, it won't be for very long. Alright, so just going through the process of finding the few eggs that need to be processed there. We've got about 4,000 calories or so, not enough for the 5. I'm not finding that this playthrough is that significantly different in terms of the amount of meat, which is surprising because I've relied on the sweetles. I've filled up the hatches a lot faster, and the pips are pretty much in the same boat. They're not going any faster or lower, but I waited for them to get filled, and at this point I should be getting starting to get meat from them. I might even expand to get to another stable for the pips, that is. But I'm pretty confident that I'm going to get it anyways. And this incubator system, as painful as it is, it does work. Okay, so I need another dupe. And the reason I need another dupe is to start consuming meat, because I haven't done as well as I thought, as I mentioned. And when that happens, so you get you get closer to cycle 100, and you have to start to do the math. You can see I'm adjusting the schedule there for more dupes. But the closer you get to cycle 100, you have to calculate how much meat you need to consume. So you can go into the menu for the achievements, and it'll actually, if you click on the carnivore achievement, it'll show you how much you've eaten. So 400,000 minus that is how much you have left. Divide that by the number of cycles that is left. So if that equals, I think in my case it's somewhere between 7,000 and 8,000. That means I need to have 7 or 8. Actually, yeah, it means I have to have 8 dupes consuming meat from that point on. And right now what do I have? I've got 7 dupes, but only 6 in this world. So yeah, I'm gonna have to start piling on the number of dupes, which is not a bad thing, because more dupes means more tasks that can be done in a particular period of time. Okay, so I've got a switch, and before I connect this thing, I'm turning it off. Now I can connect that, and you notice that the Red Bull generator is off. Oh, I just switched it on there, but that's okay, because I actually want to do some research. But that switch is going to allow me to turn it off when that research is complete. And I'm going to be researching 2 things. The first is Glass Forge, and the second is the solar panels. Once that research is done, I'm going to turn that off, and I'm not going to do any more research into that. And particularly, I'm not going to run the Red Bull generator, that is, until I have a full array, or at least almost a full array on the top of the base of solar panels, such that the power that could be that can come from the solar panels, at least during the day. And then I would have to make sure that I've got some dupes at night that can run the manual generators so that it doesn't turn off. So that's the plan, is to do the minimum amount of research with the Red Bull generators necessary, get some solar panels, and then move on with some other research once, and only once that is complete. And having those solar panels will not only allow me to effectively run a Red Bull generator, at least during the day, but so many other things, such as the metal refinery, which takes a lot of dupes on the manual generator while someone does that. I do like to use the metal refinery, though, because it's efficient transition of metal ore. Because it is one of the things that I find early on that you can get short of very easily. So I'm very protective of my metal ore. In my last playthrough, it was quite painful, but I found a single wire that was connected to
heavy watt wires, and that burned through quite a bit of metal ore. Pretty sure aluminum ore. Anyways, I did, when I upgraded this to heavy watt wires, I double checked that just to make sure that that isn't going to happen to me in this case. Okay, so just future proofing this, I don't have any smooth hatches at the moment, but when I do, I want to have this room available for them. This is where they'll go. I might make the shape of this room differently because I can see I've got some water up there. And because I'm not going to have any more to the left, I can just make this room kind of awkwardly go to the left, as long as I've got a door with the tile above it so that the smooth hatches that are in there can't jump around. And I just need to make sure that it's 96 tiles in size. I do have a number of stone hatches, and that's because I'm giving the regular hatches sedimentary rock, increasing their chances to lay the stone hatches. And with enough stone hatches, that is going to eventually produce a smooth hatch. At least that's the plan. And that'll happen as long as the stone hatches are consuming metal ore, which I'm not happy about. So the moment... Oh my god! Oh my goodness. This explains so much. That chute, I forgot to destroy. Shoot. That explains so much. Okay, yeah, I was wondering why there wasn't as many Sweetle eggs. And, oh my god. So yeah, this would have been, I would have been in a much, oh my god. I'm pretty sure I'm going to get anyway, so I'm not going to go back. But, that's what happened. And I'm blaming the fact that I had to be in the room with the incubator so much, but you really do have to check all things in this game. There's so many things that could go wrong. It's not necessarily a bad thing. The Sweetles accumulated down there. You see there's quite a few of them. But I didn't know that they were there, and I could have been hunting some of them earlier on, in fact, and consuming more meat. Because the calculations that I'm doing, I'm probably am going to get into the 90s, maybe late 80s if I'm lucky, but 90s before I get that achievement, which is fine. I was hoping to come up with a technique, and I think I did find the right technique. I just didn't implement it correctly, as you can see. But yeah, those Sweetles, there's quite a few of them. Anyways, that's fine. I'm even without them, I think I've got enough meat that is now coming from the pips, because now they can produce meat, the hatches, and the odd bit of Sweetle eggs that get there. I don't know if I have it. It's set up to go 50-50. Every other one is making its way there, but whatever. Well then, that that's quite painful actually, but I think I'm going to get this anyways. So I'm still power conscious. I don't want to bring in a filter. I've got to notice that I built these mask stations. Those got to be pumped up with oxygen. But I want to build a filter system, and I've built this several times in the last several playthroughs, so I won't go over this in super detail. But I want a power efficient filter. And I can do that with a gas reservoir and a gas shutoff and automation. Alright, so yeah, I'm still going to push this system through because what I might try and do, I might try to leave the Sweetles as a backup for when I don't have enough meat and see if I'm able to actually produce it with the actual meat that I'm getting from the eggs locally. So Sweetles are coming from the other planetoid, and I have a dupe that's over there now. I've got so actually that's one interesting thing. That dupe is not consuming meat, or at least not very much meat. That's because all the eggs that get produced over there are being sent over here. It's not until one of those critters naturally dies that it might possibly have meat, and that's a bad. Well, I mean it just means that even though I have 7 dupes,
I've just taken on another one, that they're not taking part in the process of consuming meat. So what I'm going to have to do is just bring on more dupes. I'm up to 8 in total right now. I'm probably going to go up to 10, and I'm pretty sure I'll be quite comfortable with that. And as long as I can attack enough critters, and or really more about finding enough critters or having enough critters available to attack to be able to feed this the 10 dupes, I should be able to get the carnivore achievement in this game. All right. Okay, I'm really kicking myself over the fact that I did not realize that chute was down there. Now you can see a Sweetle egg was dropped off. I've destroyed that other chute. So now any Sweetle... Oh, miner is trapped. So I'm just going to give them a wall high priority, or a tile, they're high priority so they can get back. And I'm going to start to build this system that's going to filter oxygen. So gas reservoir, gas shut off right before it. It's going to have a detector for elements right before it with automation. I'm going to actually design the pipes to go in so that it gives even distribution. It doesn't concentrate on just one. It will slowly fill them all at the same time, or I shouldn't say the same time, but at least not fully concentrate on one before moving on to the other type of thing. Okay, so automation. There's two parts to the automation. One is detecting when oxygen is there and turning on that pipe. The other is detecting when the gas reservoir is full. I'm going to put it setting at 50-50 and turn off the oxygen into that area. Because what I don't want to have happen is to have excess amount of oxygen go into it and just be pumped out the side. And the main reason for that is just the power waste, because I'm not producing a lot of power at the moment. I may not care so much once I get solar panels, but I'm not there yet. So in this room, you can see that processing all the different types of eggs. And the more different types of eggs that you have, the worse it is. And also notice a pipsqueak was trapped on the left door. That's temporary because that door will eventually open. But anyways, so that automation or that system for filtering is going to need a bit of power. But finally starting the solar panel research. And now I've got the ability to build a glass forge. And I'm probably going to put that next to the really cold space. But I'm in need of more metal, or metal ore. So I'm going to dig that out. You can see some heavy wires may not be completed. But anyway. So we are getting close to cycle 75. I'm going to finish there for this episode. My goal is to see if I can get a glass forge created. Because, well, I mean, if it won't be, it'll be created at the beginning of the next episode. But that'll be my goal, is to get that in. And then have a cooling system. Oh. Okay, this isn't good. As far as the incubator is concerned, I think I've got enough meat. The fact that I can't run that, I'm not super concerned, but I know that the Red Bull generator, for the reasons that I mentioned earlier, is going to be losing the rebels. Meaning that it's just going to be stuck in this state of just continually using up power, but not actually producing anything. I upped the point of which the manual generators get a dupe on them to about 75%. That may fix the problem, hopefully. And I've got 3 manual generators right now, so hopefully that'll be in a situation. And the other thing is I've got an offset schedule, meaning that they don't all go to sleep at the same time, which would be really bad, because if they all went to sleep at the same time, there'd be no one to jump on a manual generator once the battery got low. Okay, so what I'm doing here is preparing a place for a glass forge. It's going to need to have a place for hot glass to go out, liquid glass. And I'm going to have just automation for lights, just so whoever is operating it will be able to see. So that's what that's about. And once that gets created, I'm going to have to destroy the tiles that are underneath, because I'm going to have to bring them down one. And that is where the glass forge is going to sit. Just checking to make sure that everything is all right here, and it looks like no, not really, because this dupe has consumed all the algae. So I need to dig some out over there. Hopefully they'll have time to dig that while they attend to critters. Okay, so I see there's more Sweetle eggs being processed. That is a good sign. I have a ton of Sweetles at the bottom. But anyways, it is what it is. I'm pretty confident that as long as I increase the number of dupes, which I plan to do anyways, getting up to 10 dupes is not a bad thing, because the more dupes that you have, the more things that you can get completed. But that will it's really kind of a shame, because I was really curious to see if I could really push the point at which I got the achievement. I was hoping for something in the 80s, maybe even 70s. But my prediction now is I'll get that achievement, the carnivore achievement, that is, in the cycle 90s or something. Certainly it's got to be before 100. As long as it's before 100, I won't complain that much, and we'll just move on and start to do some other interesting things. As I mentioned, it's going to be a focus on some other food source. I think it's going to be pepper bread again. I'm going to do the same tactic that I did last time, which is go to the other world and just turn that into a huge sleet wheat farm with wild plants and the pips and all of that. At that point, I'll speed things up. I'm slowed things down for the first few cycles, because I found there's a lot of smaller things that are interesting when you first get started. But once I get to that point, I'll speed things up, or I'll either speed things up, or I'll just start cutting some of the more dry things, as long as I'm showing how I'm creating it in the after effect type of thing. But we'll see how that goes. That is later. My focus right now is going to be on the carnivore achievement. One huge mistake, but it's not going to change the outcome really, other than it's just going to take an extra 10 or 20 cycles to get this thing. Okay, so Hugger, every single cycle, it seems, going through the full list of eggs. A lot of pip eggs, actually. That's great, because ultimately, I'm going to get rid of the hatches. And the reason for that, in particular, the stone hatches have got to go. But I have to wait till they produce their smooth hatches. But the reason I want to get rid of them is they consume metal ore. Actually, I suppose I could get them to consume something else. You don't have to feed your stone hatches metal ore. The moment I get enough smooth hatches, I'll stop doing that. I'll take that out and I'll feed them something else. But even the hatches, you do have to give them some sort of material for them to create. But the pips, on the other hand, as long as you have an arb tree in there, that's wild. It doesn't consume anything. They're just happy and will produce meat for you. And the only thing you have to do is every now and then, when those pips die in the hatches or in the stables, you just have to make sure you wrangle one of them. There's my tons of Sweetles at the bottom. I'm just gonna use those as backup storage for food if this regular system doesn't work. So insulated pipe there, because what I don't want to have happen is glass go from the glass forge out and have it solidify or turn to a solid in the pipe, breaking the pipes. That's why that's insulated. I want it to actually stay hot and not cool down. And the area it's falling down to is going to be liquid area that's next to the negative 150 degree temperatures. All right, so another dupe. What are we at now? 8 in this particular base. So I need one more to be comfortable. I think I actually have enough dupes to consume the amount of meat necessary for the carnivore achievement, but why not have an even 10? That's what I did in the last playthrough, and that worked pretty well in terms of getting going with some of the things that I wanted to build after the fact. So one of the things that you do have to be wary of if you are going to accept more dupes is whether you've got enough food for them, and everything from washrooms and oxygen is the other big thing. But right now I've got 2 electrolyzers, tons of water, ability to deal with the hydrogen that goes with it, carbon dioxide is being dealt with. I've got lots of food right now, so I'm going to say I can take on one more dupe soon. But this is cycle 75, so I'm going to finish it here. In this next episode, it's going to be make or break. One of two things are going to happen. I'm either going to get the achievement, which I'm pretty sure I am, or if I don't, I'm going to go back to cycle, let's say 50, go again, and maybe I'll do a fast forward. I won't do the whole slow. Well, not that this is slow. It still is in fast forward mode, but I'll fast forward through a bit and just show you what it would be like as if I didn't forget to destroy that automation chute or conveyor chute. But I don't think that's going to be necessary. I think between Hugger going through this, the amount of pips that I've got, and the math, the way that works out is it's about every stable that I have of 3 pips, by the way, is going to support 1 dupe. So right now I've got 6 of those stables. If I want to support 10, I'll need 10 of those rooms, unless I have a combination of those pips and hatches or some other critter. Okay, so there is the system for filtering oxygen that can be turned on, and then I can get my dupes to go outside. Research for solar panels. I wish that was complete. That would have been nice to have that wrapped up in this episode, but it's almost complete. And in the next episode, whilst I continue on with the carnivore achievement, probably the next major goal will be building an array of solar panels, as well as producing glass necessary for it. And that's the spot for it. So I'm not sure that I'm going to get the forge together, but let me just okay, ladder was in the way. So let me just put it in there, and whether they build it or not, it'll be ready to go early on next cycle.